St. John's Place, Brooklyn, 1953. We're sitting on the stoop waiting for our dad to come home from work. My sister Mary is 9 and my brother Johnny is 4 and I'm 6, and we are staring down that block just waiting for the moment when he turns that corner. And then there he is, and he sees us, he smiles and he waves, black curly hair. We jump off the stoop and we run down the block. He's waiting for the light to change. He motions, stop, stop. He's afraid we'll run into traffic. Crosses the street and he's all ours, and he swings Mary onto his back and I'm on one hip and Johnny's on the other, and we're laughing as we search his pockets for the dark chocolate raspberry jelly rings that he hides, just knowing that we'll find them. He gallops home with us and we shout, go faster, faster, faster. He throws us on their bed in the living room, which is also the couch and our trampoline. My mother calls, George, and he says, coming, Helen. And he pushes through the swinging doors into the kitchen to find her. And the moment he leaves, we miss him. My mother is bosomy, long-legged, always on a diet. She is constantly saying, your Aunt Sue is so skinny, she doesn't even have an ass. And one evening when Aunt Sue comes to dinner, Johnny and I decide that we're going to find out if she has an ass. So we peek into the bathroom while she's peeing, and Johnny's like, look, Jeannie, she has an ass. He was so disappointed. We know my dad is 36. We have no idea how old my mother is. Every time we ask her, she'll go, I'm old enough to be your mother. But one day, Johnny and I are sitting on the stoop. We're waiting for the Gojima truck to come. We lived on the ground floor. We had these big windows that faced the street, and the windows were open. We could hear my mom singing along with her Frank Sinatra records. She loved Frank Sinatra. She had a big Frank Sinatra record collection, but she never played them when my dad was home, because my dad hated Frank Sinatra. But suddenly, there's Mary running down the street, hair flying, a stack of comic books under her arm, and some kid chasing her that we never even saw before, and he's shouting, give them back, I'm gonna beat you up. And she's like, no, no. They stop right in front of us and they're kind of, circling, and Mary's holding her ground. He's like, I'm gonna beat you up, give them back. And she's like, no. He goes, well, I'm gonna get my brother to beat you up, and my brother is 15. All of a sudden, the Frank Sinatra music stopped. My mother stuck her head out the window, and she said, oh, yeah? Well, she's going to get her mother to beat you up, and her mother is 16. We were like, holy shit! Mom is 16! But the thing is, she never, ever got any older. Every evening, they had this ritual, my parents, my mom and dad, they would sit at a yellow formica table in the kitchen. They would each have half an avocado with Italian dressing in the middle, and they would drink gin and tonics, and we were not allowed to disturb them. All hell could break loose. We could be torturing each other. They would not budge from that table. And I was going through a phase where I thought I was adopted, and I also thought I had leprosy. So I would spend hours in the mirror, like pulling on my ears to see if they were still, they're going to fall off, And I drove everybody crazy. I mean, I was relentless. I would go, do you think I'm adopted? I don't think I look like you. Do you think I'm adopted? Look at the spot. Do you think I have leprosy? And I was awful. I just didn't stop. So one evening while, my parents were having their gin and tonics, my sister is reading a book, and I'm driving her crazy. I'm jumping on top of her, and I'm pulling the book away, and I'm going, do you think I'm adopted? Do you think I have leprosy? And she got so mad, she said, you have leprosy, and you're adopted. And I went banging on the kitchen door, Mom, Mary says I'm adopted, and I have leprosy. And she calls out, you are adopted. We have 15 more minutes. Thank goodness she didn't say anything about the leprosy part. We played outside for hours, and there was not one grown-up around. We organized ourselves. We played chase the white flag, stickball, punch ball, stoop ball, Johnny ride a pony, and we organized. We had these lookers, these kids that were lookers, and they would call out, coast clear, or car coming. We would have these great adventures, and we would explore the alleys between the apartment houses. And we never came home until a parent or an older sibling called our name, and then from wherever we were, we just kind of stopped on a dime and went home. Mrs. Duffy, our upstairs neighbor, had the only television on the block. And when she let us, we would all pile on a couch in her living room, and we would watch shows like, Dragnet and The Lone Ranger and Hop Along Cassidy. And so a lot of our games outside were about the good guys and the bad guys, cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians. It was a time where we didn't have play dates, we just were on our own. St. John's Place was a hard-working Catholic neighborhood, and we were the only Jewish family, and I never really thought about being Jewish. Kathleen Halligan was my best friend, and she was in first grade. She went to St. Teresa's, and I was in first grade. I went to PS9. We played after school together every single day. And then one day, I was waiting for her, and Kathleen came charging out of her apartment, and she looked me right in the eye, and she said, I hate you because you killed Christ. You killed Jesus Christ. The Jews killed Jesus Christ. And I was horrified. I was like, no, I didn't kill Christ. I didn't even know Mr. Christ. I didn't even know him. I didn't know that man. After that, things were different. I mean, we still played together, but there was a change, because now when I was with her, I felt Jewish. It was different. Every Friday night, my parents had their friends come over, and my mother would make pineapple upside down cake and deviled eggs, and we would move invisibly through the smoke-filled room, wine and whiskey. Mary, Johnny, and I would steal all the cherries off the cake and eat most of the deviled eggs, and we would crouch in the corner whispering and giggling as we watched my mom and dad slow dance to Billie Holiday. But then, somewhere in that year, 1953, there was a change, and the Friday night parties became more like Friday night meetings. We weren't allowed out of bed. Although we peeked through the door, we listened to worried voices into the night, and the names, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, repeated over and over and over again. And they would spend the hours making phone calls and writing letters and licking envelopes. And it seemed so dark. A whole group of them went to Washington, D.C. My parents went along with them, and they left us with my Uncle Irving, which was great because they knew nothing about children. And so, we didn't have a bedtime, we never brushed our teeth, and we lived on strawberry shortcake from juniors day in and day out. Except there was this one night while we were at Irving's when Mary woke me up and she said, Jeannie, get up, you gotta sit up. I'm doing handsy-handsy. The handsy-handsy was a very serious thing. When Mary is doing handsy-handsy, she has something important to say. So we both sat up in bed, and I put my hands on top of hers, and she had her hands like that, and stayed like that for a few minutes. And she said, Jeannie, the reason Mom and Dad went to Washington, D.C. is to tell President Eisenhower not to kill Jules and Ethel. And I was like, why? Why would President Eisenhower want to kill Jules and Ethel? And she said, because they told bad secrets that they shouldn't have told. How could you be killed over telling secrets? And I went to bed that night so scared and kind of ticking away all the secrets that I had and what I might have said and what I might have not said. One Saturday morning, we were all jumping on the bed, and my dad was vacuuming, and Mary said, doorbell. None of us really heard it. And the doorbell turned into kind of banging, so Mary jumped off the bed and, ran to the door, and she opened up the door, and standing in front of the door, right in the doorway, were 3 men dressed in blue suits, holding a briefcase. FBI. Is your mother home? Johnny was like, yes, the FBI, this is the greatest thing that like ever happened. Like the FBI is in our house, how fantastic, you know, but suddenly there is my father and he's running down the hallway to the door and he slams the three of us up against the wall with one hand and he's pushing the FBI out with the other and he's going, bastards, murderers, and he slams the door in their face and he looks at us. And he says, don't you ever open the door for the FBI again. And we're stunned, you know. Johnny starts crying, like, but the FBI are the good guys, Daddy, they're the good guys. So are we the bad guys? They're the good guys. And Mary's like indignant, you know, I thought you only hated Frank Sinatra. I didn't even know you hated the FBI. And all I could think about was the night of Handsy and the secrets, and I thought, maybe my Dad had some bad secrets. 4 days later, my mother and father are called before the House of Un-Americans Committee. They leave really early in the morning. And there are so many words that I don't understand. Like, everybody is so worried about the blacklist. Is your name on the blacklist? Maybe mine. And I'm like, what is a blacklist? I asked Mary, do you know what a blacklist is? And Mary doesn't know what a blacklist is. And I think is my friend Tanya on the blacklist who's black? And what is this House of Un-Americans? Do you walk in American and then you walk out un-American, kind of like dressed, you know, and undressed? They leave really early in the morning. St. John's Place, Brooklyn, 1953. We're sitting on the stoop waiting for my parents to come home from testifying at the House of Un-Americans Committee. My sister Mary is 9, my brother Johnny is 4, and I'm 6, and we are staring down the block, just hoping that they're going to turn that corner. And I think to myself, you know, I wish it was before Handsy and the FBI. And Mary says, maybe they're not going to come back. Jules and Ethel didn't come back. Maybe they won't come back. It's getting late. We won't go in. The street lights go on. It's getting dark. My Uncle Irving comes out and he makes us wear sweaters. And we're just staring down that block. And then there they are. They see us, they wave, they smile. We leap off that stoop and we run down the block. They're waiting for the light to change. They go, shh, stop, afraid we'll run into traffic. And then they're ours. And in that one moment, I don't really care about the FBI. And I'm not worried about secrets because they're here. They came back. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed June 19th, 1953. They were tried, convicted of espionage. The first Americans to be convicted and executed of espionage during a time of peace. Thank you.